Hey everyone. Um, what I'm going to do today is something a little different. I call it the Forgotten Hair Jig. It's um it's going to be Marabou, uh, but it's going to be tied in the style that you're used to seeing for crappie. With We're going to use a product called chenille to build up the body, and if you ever uh, look up an old In Fisherman article called "The History of the Marabou Jig," you'll see this style of jig has been used a long time ago, and it was used fairly common, but it's fell out of favor since I've been using it for a while, and it works pretty well. Um, just decided that nobody ties them no more, at least not for bass. So I figured I'd put it out there for you. Okay, in the vise we got basic round ball jig, 1/8 ounce with a 2-aught Aberdeen round bend hook, Mustad 32-746. We're going to start with 210 denier uh, Danville flat wax nylon in a coffee color. Get it started and trim the tag off. And we're going to leave the lead collar on, as you can see. This one here I'm only going to take down just to the hook point, maybe a little bit past it. And we're going to stop there. Now, I'm going to take 2 brown marabou hairs, plumes that I pre-selected. And I'm going to put the both of them together because I want this, unlike a crappie jig, I want this to be a little heavy. Longer tail. One thing working with this stuff is it's definitely uh, fluffy, I guess you would call it. But I'm going to tie it in by the tips. And the tips on marabou, um, they're not really strong. So what I like to do is I like to use a lot of it, use a lot of the tip area, um, and tie it up because it is the barbs on these aren't very strong and they'll break off if you only tie a little bit in like you would regular hackle. Now that we got that in, we're going to take our hackle pliers and we're going to attach on. You don't really need them. I like them. And now we're going to spin these uh, marabou feathers back. And as you do it, you want to brush the fibers back. And it will look kind of garbled up and as you're going, but you'll smooth them out as you go. The thing with marabou, tying it like this rather than just tying the feathers straight in, I believe it gives you more action in the water. It just looks better. All the individual fibers seem to come out and come alive, and I think it makes a difference. Wet your fingers a little bit, pull the fibers back. Now that we're at the end, you could simply put a couple wraps in there to secure it. Yes, and I'm using the old style hackle pliers. Tie that in. Now we'll cut the stems off. That's the. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some Flashabou. A little different than the crystal flash. Um, Probably really hard to see. This stuff is it's pearl. Um, it'll really show up in the water, so you don't want a lot of that. You just want maybe one or two long strands on one side. And now I'm gonna bring this over to the other side. And just like the crystal flash, I'm tying it in on one piece that's basically folded over. That way it doesn't, it's almost impossible to pull it out without breaking it. Now that we got that, our chenille. This is a root beer chenille. Um, it's basically a cactus chenille, which has mylar in it, and it sticks out pretty far. There's all kinds of chenilles, and with these you can use any kind. You could use New Age chenille, variegated chenille, ice chenille, whatever you like, whatever you works in your water. That's what I would go with. But I like this cactus chenille for this particular pattern, especially when I'm doing like this root beer brown color, which is the color of the thread, the color brown paint that's on here, and this is a flashy brownness cactus chenille. Now what I did there was I pulled off the fibers and left that little thread that's in the chenille. I let that hang, and that's what I tied into rather than use a whole lot of chenille. Now that, and begin to wrap. And with when you're using cactus chenille, you'll want to peel back the fibers. Wet my fingers again too, and get this marabou, because it's real fluffy. It'll get in your way. Peel back the fibers. If you can first succeed getting the marabou plumes out of your way. I remember somebody saying to me once about, well, you're using a crappie jig to fish for a smallmouth, and um, needless to say, after the few fish, I showed somebody else about this. They became a fan. Um, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's not seen a lot in bass fishing circles, this type of jig. And for crappie, which bass are caught on these crappie fishing, but they're usually made smaller with much smaller hooks. Um, but make no mistake, this is a great producer. And wrap all the way up to the head, and then give it some securing wraps. Take your scissors and try to get in there as close as you can. A couple more wraps. And a whip finish. trim it. Now here's a little, all we got left is the head cement. Here's a little trick with the head cement when you got chenille all the way up to the head, is take your bodkin, which is nothing but like a little needle or a dubbing needle, but something pretty small, and you take your bodkin and you dip it in your head cement, and then that's how you get your head cement on there. Even though I don't think I really need it with this 210 denier, I like having it on there. Wipe the excess off, put my bodkin away, and basically there you have it. That is a bass size Marabou jig. Plenty of flash on that. And you see how the tail extends down, but that there'll catch them, believe it or not. You may not think so, but try it out that way and see what you think. Thanks for watching.